Hello everyone and welcome into the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com alongside the Trentonians George O'Gorman, Mike Samsel with you after another football weekend here in Mercer County. And this week, George, it was kind of the week of the blowout.
Well, it depends on what you were looking at. I mean, there were a number of games that were not surprisingly close, but they were exciting games. Starting off on Friday night when Hopewell Valley defeated Allentown. Hopewell Valley stayed unbeaten. And that was a big test because they hadn't beaten Allentown in 3 years. And they won 21-7. And impressive performance for the Hopewell Valley defense. If Caldwell's ball club, I think they wanted to, get some respectability because, they had won their first 3 games, but over teams with a combined 1 win.
Right.
So they had something to prove, and they did it when Drew Riley ran 74 yards on the first play from scrimmage for Hopewell. And then they came up with a couple of big defensive plays. They had an amazing interception return of 1 yard.
Yeah.
For a touchdown that clinched it. And they also had, Mike Geist, now the leading receiver in the Colonial Valley Conference, Mercer County. I think he had like four receptions, if I'm not mistaken. But they got a lot of weapons there, and now they got a bye. And then the week after, next Friday, a week from this Friday, they play Notre Dame. They host Notre Dame. So, it was an outstanding performance. Andrew Yuska, leading rusher in Mercer County, came up with 139 yards on 19 carries, and that was an interesting ball game. It was a very exciting game, and Allentown comes right back this week and visits Trenton, and they've piled up the points on Trenton the last couple of years, and so I know that the Tornadoes haven't forgotten that, and they're a team on a mission, and they want to gain momentum for their upcoming game in a couple of weeks against Rancocas Valley. Notre Dame's game was 48-34 over West Windsor Plainsboro North.
Nottingham.
Nottingham's game. That's right.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's game was the blowout over Hightstown, but Nottingham's game, that was an exciting game because despite the fact that West Windsor North is winless, they could put up points.
Yeah, it's really amazing how good Chris Casamento's offense is over there, and it's a shame you mentioned they just had a very tough schedule. And the other thing I find interesting about this year is kind of what is up is down and what is down is up as far as programs that usually aren't that strong in years past have been very good as of late. Allentown's been good the past couple of years. Also very good so far is, we see Hopewell Valley having a very good year.
Yeah, but
we see Trenton having a very good year.
Hopewell's been good the last couple of years. They just haven't made the playoffs. But they're on a roll now, and they're gaining momentum. And I think the fact that they want to get to the playoffs for the first time, and that's really incentive. You got to give Todd Smith a lot of credit. He came over after retiring at West Windsor South, and he's done an excellent job with that offense. And Dave Caldwell's ball club, they've got a lot of weapons. And Austin Fellows, outstanding quarterback, and they haven't really had that make him throw the ball that much. So and Trenton's been down, but everybody knew that if Trenton ever got the direction and the dedication, that they were a sleeping giant, to use that old phrase. And that's definitely what Tariq Holman has done with the Tornadoes.
Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com is presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton, and also by the Trentonian. Check them out online at Trentonian.com. George and I will come back and go over the results from last week here on the Mercer County Football Show coming up.
The Gator, Jerry Blavitt. And are you looking for the best local news coverage, the best sports coverage, both Philly and New York sports, and the best high school coverage? Then look no further than the Trentonian. It's the only local newspaper covering Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties 7 days a week. No one does it better than the Trentonian. It's coverage you can count on 7 days a week from Levittown to Burlington, Hamilton to Florence, Trenton to Newtown. It's the Trentonian.
Welcome back to the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com. Mike Samsel, George O'Gorman with you, presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton, and also the Trentonian. Make sure you check us out on Trentonian.com. And George, before we get into anything, news broke after we recorded our show last week that Hightstown head coach Pete Brescia was suspended for last week's game. Had a chance to talk to Gary Buscelli, the athletic director at Hightstown. He offered no comment, saying it was personnel matter. They don't comment on personnel matters. Right. So that was a bit of news that happened last week. He did not coach in the Notre Dame game, which Notre Dame won 49-13. No quote was ever released as to what officially happened. Results from last week.
Well, the only thing that I was able to gather from it, and I think it's just in poor taste on the part of the Hightstown administration, if you get an anonymous letter from one parent, yet there were parents after they found out what happened said this is garbage.
Right.
You know, I mean, stop and think about it when you go back. I mean, I know Pete's a fiery kid. You know, I call him a kid because I remember covering him in high school. But I mean, you know, it's a 7-7 ball game against an undefeated Hopewell Valley team, and they give up 35 points in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, and the comment apparently that was made among the coaches, and apparently somebody heard it, and whether it was a player who told his father or whatever, but there was an anonymous letter from what I understand, and they immediately suspended, you know, Pete Brescia. You know, I mean, it doesn't do well for a program that's struggling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And now they go to Steinert, where Pete, you know, it's interesting because Pete had played at Notre Dame, and here was a chance for him to go against his alma mater. Now he's taken Hightstown over to Steinert, and he previously had coached at Steinert. He had been on that staff over there.
Yeah.
But well, that's, you know, water under the bridge now, and you know, Hightstown's got a little, you know, they just got to put things together. They Dustin Coleman, they've been using him more as a runner than as a
they've been running
they've been running him more than passing.
Pistol T formation. They've been running over there a lot.
That's something that a number of the teams in the in Mercer County are doing. Allentown with Drew Apostolico, he ran for their only touchdown, kind of like that TD that Peyton Manning ran the other day. Remember, faked the ball, handed off, going right, and came back. Nobody was in front of him, and he just walked into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of schools are doing that. There's also some teams that are throwing the ball and throwing it very well.
Yeah, some of the results throughout Mercer County last week. Florence 46-0 over Robbinsville. Cinnaminson 42, Burlington City 6. Lawrence 20, Ewing 0. Lawrence, once again, proving they're one of those teams that are very up and very strong this year.
Yeah, but you know, that's a little bit of a surprise there. That game was 0-0 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew Bessler's Ewing Blue Devils opened up with a win over Cinnaminson, down in Cinnaminson. And Cinnaminson hasn't lost since then, and Ewing hasn't won since then.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how strange things go. But, you know, at any rate, that was a pretty good ball game. Lawrence ended up winning it 20-0. Now Lawrence comes back this week and plays a winless Princeton team on Saturday. But, you know, Nick Falkenberg, the quarterback, Samai Mitchell just continues to pile up the yards. Samai Mitchell had another big game. Cameron Kitchen is really doing an outstanding job. Samai Mitchell, he caught one pass for 7 yards. He had 182 yards rushing and a touchdown, 19 carries.
Mm-hmm.
Samai Mitchell's doing an outstanding job, and you know, I was just thinking about it the other day as we moved towards the midway point in the season. Who's the player of the year in Mercer County?
Yeah, there are a lot of strong contenders out there.
There are some excellent contenders. Andrew Yuska continues to be one of the leading rushers. He had another big game. I think he had about 130 some yards for Hopewell Valley in its win, and he didn't even score.
Mm-hmm. I would say the two front runners you were looking at would probably be Tremaine Nieves and Samai Mitchell.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tremaine Nieves, you can't really fault, you know, what he's doing. He got hurt and really didn't play, but how about Ryan Wharton?
Yeah.
Ryan Wharton ran for 200 yards for the Tornadoes. That was an interesting game because Steinert isn't that bad. I think Steinert may have, you know, it was tough to come back after losing to Nottingham and then having to come back and play at Trenton.
Right. Yeah.
And I know that some of the people on the Steinert camp were a little bit upset, thought Trenton may have poured it on. You know, it did get out of hand. Interesting thing there, Trenton, after one of their touchdowns, kicks off, and Steiner lets the ball roll. I mean, on a kickoff.
Right.
Lets the ball roll down to the 10-yard line, never went over to cover it, never went over to down it.
Oh, jeez.
Trenton runs down and picks the ball up,
Mm-hmm.
runs it in for a touchdown. Referees called it back and said you can't advance. It's your ball, but you have to take it where you picked it up at.
Right.
But Steiner's got the opportunity to come back with a win this week over Hightstown. And it's unfortunate because Steiner's not that bad. They don't really have the running game. They've got a pretty decent passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarterback, Skirto, I mean, he was just under duress the whole time. I mean, if he wasn't being, pressured by the Trenton defensive line, and he was his receivers were throwing the ball, weren't holding on to the ball.
Right.
He threw a few over their heads. He threw a few of them wide, but he was constantly under heavy pressure there, and he ended up throwing the ball 22 times, completed only 5, only gained 57 yards. Got sacked 3 times, intercepted 3 times.
Yeah. Tough week. We mentioned Trenton 45-0 over Steiner was the final of that one. Rancocas Valley, I was impressed with. They hung very tough with Eastern. 31-28 was the final in that game. We mentioned Notre Dame 49-13 over Hightstown. Northern Burlington 21-0 over West Windsor Plainsboro South. Nottingham 49-34 over the North Knights. We already talked about that game as well. Hamilton 34-0 over Princeton. Hopewell Valley 21, Allentown 7. We talked about that. What we didn't talk about was Hamilton Tom Hoagland's Hornets getting their first win of the year.
Getting their first win of the year over a depleted Princeton team that's, at least it gives the Hornets some confidence. They were hoping to avoid their their longest losing streak to start a season in, I guess, over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think back in the 90s, 94 it may have been when they started losing their first 6 games. But the Hornets got back. They got another tough one coming up. They got their other crosstown rival, Nottingham, on Saturday at noon over at Jim Wilno Senior Field. And the Hornets are a young team that's trying to build. Mm-hmm. Kyle Bone, their quarterback, not doing a bad job for a junior. He had some, against a not a very strong Princeton secondary,
mm-hmm.
but Kyle Bone ended up, I think he threw 12 times, completed 10 of them.
Yeah.
136 yards. Not a bad performance. And, he can put the ball in the air. Dakota Shields, I think his name was.
Shelton.
Dakota Shelton was honored by the TD Club this week as the defensive lineman of the week for the Hornets. I think he had 7 sacks, caused a fumble or recovered a fumble. It's a young team that's getting better. We'll see how much better they've gotten. They've had a tough schedule to open up. They opened up against Hopewell Valley, then they came back and played Notre Dame, and then they had Allentown last week, where they actually were in the game with Allentown. I think they ended up losing 20-10.
Yeah.
Now they get the win over Princeton. Now they go in to play Nottingham.
Yeah, pretty tough stretch. We'll have 3 games for you on the WBCB Sports Network this weekend. We'll step aside now, take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll tell you the 3 games that we have in Mercer County this week. 4 games this week, actually. 3 of them coming up on Saturday. The Mercer County Football Show presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton, and also the Trentonian. George and I will be back to preview those games and more on the Mercer County Football Show right after this.
St. Francis Medical Center ranked #1 in Mercer County for patient safety. A recent article in Consumer Reports titled "How Safe is Your Hospital?" ranked St. Francis Medical Center in the top 10 hospitals in New Jersey for patient safety, and it was the only hospital in Mercer County to reach the top 10. This article from Consumer Reports provides a ranking by state in the categories of infections, readmissions, communication, and scanning, and Consumer Reports ranked St. Francis Medical Center in the top 10 in all of New Jersey for patient safety, and the #1 hospital in Mercer County, St. Francis Medical Center.
Welcome back to the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com, presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton, and also by the Trentonian. Check out their scores and results in the Trentonian and online at Trentonian.com. Also, make sure you pick up the Wednesday morning edition. They have all the power rankings, all the stats, everything. Check it out in the pages of the Trentonian. Friday night slate, kind of a light Friday night slate in Mercer County this week. only 4 games, and probably the game of the night on Friday night sees Notre Dame head into West Windsor, Plainsboro North. That could be a very interesting and competitive game, and something tells me a lot of points coming up in that one.
Yeah, the potential is there for a lot of points. You got Rob McCoven for Notre Dame, who likes to throw the ball, and Kevin Murphy, the leading passer right now, yardage-wise, over 1,000 yards through 4 games. I think he's had a couple of. I know he's had all his games have been over 200. I think he's even had a 300-yard game in there, maybe 2 300-yard games. But he can throw the ball. He's got some receivers who can go get it. Juwan Harrison, I believe his name is, one of the leading receivers.
Kevin O'Connell, pretty good as well.
Kevin O'Connell, excellent receiver. I mean, a nice, big, tall, wide out. He can go up and get the ball. He had a couple of big catches against Trenton when they played. The one difference being that Notre Dame can run the ball a lot better. With Lorenzo Bryant and Nico Safera, they can run the ball, which probably may be part of Notre Dame's game plan, is to try to run the ball and take time off the clock and keep Murphy from standing back there and throwing it. It's unfortunate, and we mentioned it previously, the way the schedule worked out for Chris Casamento's club, and and he said, "Yeah, I heard you guys say that." He said, and I'm glad somebody realized that. I mean, they opened up the first week with Rancocas Valley, put up 20-some points on Rancocas Valley in that opening game.
Yeah.
Then they went to Hopewell Valley, and they also played Trenton, and then they had last week they had Nottingham, and now they come back with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any easier. They're not a bad ball club. And their sister school, West Windsor South, their only win has come over the winless Princeton team. And last week they got shut out at Northern Burlington, and now they come home and they host Rancocas Valley.
Yeah.
Which is coming off that big loss, a tough loss against maybe one of the top 5 teams in South Jersey, Eastern Regional, with Joe Flacco's brother as the quarterback.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think he had a real big passing game for Eastern. Maybe, West Windsor South isn't that bad of a ball club.
No.
Skip Edwards ball club, they're hurting because they really don't have a lot of depth on that program. But you got some. Diego Coutinho is one of their veteran linemen. They've been using him more as a running back, and they've got some receivers that can catch the ball. Nick Benford, not bad. He can run. I think he had 35 yards the other day in their loss to Northern Burlington, and Andrew Schofer, the quarterback. Remember, he came in late last year.
Yeah.
He's not bad. They just don't have a lot of depth on that ball club. And Chris Scanlon, excellent defensive end and a wide receiver for West Windsor South. If they can catch Rancocas Valley flat, they can possibly do something. It'll be interesting to see how Rancocas Valley does, because I know that there were some people that were upset their first week when RV beat up on West Windsor North. They felt that there were a couple of, or at least one particular, Rancocas Valley player went with a forearm to the helmet of a North player. The following week, you were there,
we saw that at Notre Dame.
that against Notre Dame. A different player did it. So I don't know what happened last week when they played the Eastern. I wasn't at the game. Rick Fortenbaugh was there. So it'll be interesting to see what how RV does this week when they go in and play West Windsor South. And South beat them last. I was at the game last year when South beat them, and ran for over 300. I think he ran for 300 yards.
Schoenauer, yeah, Brian
Schoenauer ran for 300 yards. I think he had 4 touchdowns. Did all the scoring.
Yeah.
But it's a shame because West Windsor South just doesn't have enough weapons anymore. Interesting ball game. Ewing might have a chance to come through with its second win and end that 3-game losing streak as they host Bordentown. Bordentown's not a bad ball club, but if Ewing can come out there and play with the intensity that it had in the first half against Lawrence last week, they may be able to break through and get a win. I really don't see Robbinsville getting back on the win track. They went down to play at Florence on Saturday, where Hall of Fame legendary Florence coach Joe Frappoli was coaching in his 400th game over a period of, I guess it's 40 years he's been coaching the Flashes. It was interesting. We have a nice picture in Trentonia with all the his wife and all daughters and grandkids.
Yeah.
They all were wearing T-shirts that says "Joe can coach." But yeah, that's a great atmosphere. Have you ever been to Florence?
Yeah, it's a really fun place to do
it. It is a fun place. Reminds me of the old coal mine areas up around Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. I mean, the whole family. You know, even they got a brand new field with lights and a great new high school on the other side of the Route 130. There's still the memories of playing at the pit.
I was going to say, I was never at the pit, but I heard that was quite a place.
You missed it. You missed out on being at the pit. But, yeah, I mean, Florence football is, it's great. I mean, you know, I don't think those fans realize how good they've got it. Just the whole tradition of Florence football.
Sure.
And their only loss was at Lawrence a couple of weeks ago, and Rob Radis and the Cardinals.
And they're coming off a state championship.
That's right, in Central Jersey. Remember that? They won the Central Jersey Group 1 championship at the College of New Jersey prior to Nottingham winning the Central Jersey Group 3 championship. Interesting that both of those teams, you ever see their helmets?
Yeah.
Their helmets are similar, like Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, they look exactly like Michigan. That's very cool.
As we get back to Ewing, I think Ewing can possibly come through with a win. And, you know, really, each game you could talk about on Friday night has some interesting matchups that, you know, I could conceivably see some of these games going the other way.
Yeah.
Obviously, the biggest upset would have to be if West Windsor South were to knock off Rancocas Valley, but, you know, I just don't think that they have enough weapons. But it depends on how RV comes into that game if they're deflated after losing that game to Eastern.
Yeah.
But West Windsor North, hey, it wouldn't surprise me if they stay close. They had a close game the other day with Nottingham, right?
Yeah, they did. That could be a very interesting game. That's the Friday night slate. Here, Notre Dame take home West Windsor, Plainsboro, North Georgia, and I will be out at the home of the North Knights at 6:45 on 107.7 The Bronx and 107.7thebronx.com. On to Saturday, where it's quite a busy slate on the WBCB Sports Network. 3 games of the 4 that are going on in Mercer County will be on the WBCB Sports Network. Hamilton will take on Nottingham. That one will be on 107.7 The Bronx starting at 11:45. Heightstown will take on Steinert at 1 o'clock. That will be on our website, WBCB1490.com. Allentown will take on Trenton. That'll be on 1490 AM. There'll be a quiz later if you're interested. But 3 great games on Saturday, and you can hear them on WBCB.
Don't forget either about Lawrence Cardinals. They're home to host
Princeton.
Host winless Princeton.
Yeah.
Actually, if you look at the schedule, you would say that of the 4 games, 3 of them are potential blowouts.
Yeah.
You've got Nottingham, which has only lost once, hosting their township rival Hamilton, and they've had some great games in that rivalry over the years. If you ever go back and check some of the scores and the way some of those Nottingham-Hamilton games have ended up, but I just don't think that Tom Hoagland's Hornets have enough firepower to hold off a Nottingham team that really is on a mission now to get back to the playoffs and hopefully, you know, go far.
And it was interesting. I talked to head coach Sean Adams on the high school football kickoff show last week. Had a special hour-long edition, and he was not shy about criticizing his guys and kind of saying that they were feeling pretty good about themselves heading into the season.
Yeah, I would echo those comments. I think that maybe some of the Nottingham players think that, hey, because we won it last year, you know, we're a shoo-in to do it again. Well, that doesn't happen. You know, really, when you stop and think about it, you got to go out and perform. And maybe they were one of the first teams that you know, may not have realized just how good Trenton is.
Right.
I think the coaches know, but sometimes it's tough to get into the minds of a 16, 17-year-old athlete.
Sure.
I mean, all they do is look at the team's results in the past and figure, you know, Trenton, they had only won 5 games over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But this is a legitimate Trenton team, and that's probably the best game of the day on Saturday is Allentown at Trenton.
Yeah.
Allentown, when you talk about points, they've put up some unbelievable points against Trenton. There have been some high-scoring games. I remember a game at Allentown a couple of years ago when I think they may have gotten over 70 points.
Yeah.
But the Tornadoes, and as much as the new coaching staff tries not to build that stuff up about what's going on in the past and just focus on this game, you know that the kids on that Tornado team remember what's happened, and you know they want to win, but they also want to, in a way, embarrass their opponent, especially the ones that have beat up on them. And I think that may have been one of the reasons why Steiner was a little upset that Trenton put up 49 points, 45 points on them. But, you know, Trenton was opportunistic and really did an outstanding job. And Ryan Wharton, I mean, he ran for 200 yards.
Yeah, he sure did. He's a heck of a ball player. So those are the 3 games we'll have for you on Saturday. We also mentioned winless Princeton takes on Lawrence. That'll be at 11
Hopewell
a.m.
Valley gets
over
a
at
bye
Lawrence
this week as they get ready to host, Notre Dame. The bye may come at a good time for Dave Caldwell's ball club because they're coming off a big emotional win in the first night game that they played under the first night game at their new field, Ackerson Field. And nice crowd over there. It's unfortunate the way that was designed, that they really only have bleachers on one side of the field.
Right.
But the turf's great. The whole atmosphere over there at Hopewell Valley was great when they defeated Allentown. Now they get the bye, and they got Notre Dame coming in next week. So,
yeah, it'll certainly be worth keeping an eye on. A lot of fun and a lot of good games coming up in Mercer County this week and coming for the season. That'll just about wrap it up for this edition of the Mercer County Football Show. Be sure to tune in this week, Friday night, starting at 5:30 here on 1490 WBCB, where it will be the high school football kickoff show at 6 o'clock. We begin our coverage of Pennsbury football here on the AM. Neshaminy starts at 6:45 on WBCB1490.com. George and I will be out at West Windsor, Plainsboro North, starting at 6:45 for the Trentonian pregame show, and 3 games for you on Saturday. Get all the information on them on our website, WBCB1490.com, or follow us on Twitter, twitter.com at WBCB Sports. Big thanks to the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton, and the Trentonian for allowing us to be with you again this week. For George, I'm Mike. Thanks so much. Enjoy your football weekend, everyone.